Welcome to episode 7 of Eternal Horizons, a Magic the Gathering podcast where we look out on the legacy format and beyond. My name is Jasper Murison-Bowie, or just Jasper, and I'm here with my good friend Francis Cooper, aka FGC. How's it going, Francis?
It's going well, thanks. I've been loving playing Legacy the last couple of weeks. I'm excited to talk about it.
Excellent. I'm delighted to also welcome our very first guest. Fresh off quitting his role as co-host of Everyday Eternal and straight back into podcasting, Magic deck builder extraordinaire, the man who created Nick Fitstorm, the inventor of Buried Phoenix, a stalwart member of the Miracles Cabal, Callum Smith, or CJBS for short. How are things with you, Callum?
I'm good, guys. I'm good. I just couldn't get away, could I? I said it jokingly when someone said, "Callum, do you want to do a podcast soon about the new Painter deck and stuff?" I was like, "Nah, no way. I'm not podcasting anymore." And then you were like, "Yeah, but what if we actually got you on?" So I was kind of admittedly, just on quite a low of Legacy. The format's fine. There's lots of diversity. It actually looks quite good these days, but I just was not playing it very much. And then all they had to do was print a nifty little 1-mana artifact, and I'm just straight back in. The last week of all I've been doing is just thinking and playing and talking about good old Painter.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Absolutely love it.
Thanks for having me.
So yeah, last time we talked a bunch about a brand new combo coming to Legacy with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but that was before we were even able to play with the cards, and now we can. So the combo in question is Goblin Welder and Sewer-veillance Cam, and it's slotted right into Painter, as well as spawning a brand new deck all on its own. Francis, you were the first person to 5-0 a league with it, and Callum, you've top-8'd a challenge with it, so we've got plenty of experience already, and you've learnt what it does. Francis, can you explain the basic combo to us, and then we'll go on to some thoughts on deck construction, matchups, etc., etc.
Sure. I really appreciated you giving its full name, Sewer-veillance Cam. That really...
The paparazzi.
Yeah, that really gives it the credence it deserves.
Paparazzi Painter.
Paparazzi Painter is cropping up as a potential name for the Cam decks.
That's good. Actually,
so
very quick note there. Another one I like is Blueberry Shortcake. I think that's a neat one as well.
Okay, it is a bit of a blueberry. A card with 1 blue mana. Yeah, okay. That is nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you've got your Goblin Welder, and you need a way to remove summoning sickness from your Goblin Welder. That's sort of step 1, and it needs to be in play. And if you have Sewer-veillance Cam in play and an artifact in the graveyard, or vice versa, you can essentially continually weld in and out Sewer-veillance Cam for any other artifact, because Sewer-veillance Cam triggers upon entering or leaving the battlefield, and you get to tap or untap target creature, in this case, Goblin Welder. And then once you're doing that, you can also abuse the enter the battlefield effects of other artifacts that you can loop alongside the Cam. So you can swap Cam out, often for an artifact land like Great Furnace, or a Mox like Mox Opal to make infinite mana, right? Because you can tap your artifact for mana each time during each loop. Or you can loop, otherwise most commonly, Melded Moxite, which is, I suppose, a card that's seen some play in Painter previously, but not loads. Which is a 2-mana artifact that when it enters, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw 2 cards. So if you have a card in hand to start the loop, you can essentially loot through your whole deck, adding +1 card each time. And the combination of these effects, so you often will end up with infinite mana once you've started looting your deck, and when you've started looting your deck, you will find either Grindstone, which you will then be able to loop with Cam after discarding it with Moxite. Each time it enters, it will be untapped, and you'll have infinite mana, so you can mill your opponent for 2 each time you loop it. Or you can find Legion Extruder, or I guess, what's the other one?
Twin Shot Sniper.
Yes, Twin Shot Sniper. Those are sort of 2 artifacts that can ETB and deal some amount of damage to any target, and you can loop those to win, notably through a card like Null Rod, because you are not activating any artifacts with your kill. I think those are most of the basic lines. Obviously, you can go turn 1 Welder, turn 2 Engineer, and get Extruder or Cam. Well, probably Cam. And then if you have an artifact land, you can just make infinite mana on turn 2, that sort of thing. There's a bunch of lines available, but those are the basics of what you might want to be picking up. I'm going to stop going over it because you could keep talking forever.
It's nice and simple. Then basically, that's what I'm getting, is that it's a very simple combo. Nothing funky goes on there. No, it's been great fun. I've been so excited to be playing it, and I think last time we were sort of thinking, is it going to be any good? And I think pretty clearly, within We're a week on from it coming out on Magic Online, and it's put up a bunch of results. How much of that is to do with, people not knowing how to play against it? We don't know. But I think the raw power level feels like it's there. What do you think, Callum?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think my first instinct was actually looks pretty strong. But the issue that I've always had with Welder in Painter especially is it's a 1/1, especially with Bowmasters being a card that's played a ton in the format. It does just die. People have learned over the years to just kill the Goblin Welder. So it's actually pretty hard to have active fairly often. But I've just been surprised by playing the deck, how you can utilize some of the haste effects and you can sandbag the Goblin Welders a lot more. That's a play pattern I've been doing a lot more, where you have so much filtering now with Melted Moxites to draw more cards, and actually the Surveillance Cams to draw 2 cards in the mid game. You can kind of find a card like Skateboard, which is another new one, or Lava Spur Boots off a Saga in the mid game, and you can set up things where you overload interaction and removal spells and things where the Welder's been alive and found more than I expected. So that's the big power point to me is it's not about getting the combo, the artifacts in the graveyard. You can do that with all the looting and engineers and stuff. But getting the Goblin Welder itself in the beginning has been the big thing. So that's been the impressive part to me. People are using Agatha's Soul Cauldron as kind of more welders for along the game, and it's a nice interaction. It's a card you can play in the main deck to beat Eldrazi Titans like Emrakul. In the loop that Francis described with Grindstones, if you mill your opponent out, during that whole looping, because if you're drawing your whole deck with Moxite, you can use Agatha's Soul Cauldron to exile an Emrakul each time it shuffles, and then you can exile your opponent's whole library actually with that kind of loop as well. So yeah, I'm kind of going off into the weeds already. There's so many things it can do when you're comboing off. It's hard to kind of not to think of all these little bits and pieces, but I completely agree. Playing the deck has felt just incredibly powerful off the bat. So I think it's a big upgrade for the deck, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like you said, there are so many different things that you can do when you're comboing, and the timing is also really interesting because, Francis, you noticed halfway through recording last episode that the card had flash. And it's that in itself gives you a bunch of windows to do stuff, because if you have one cam that you're trying to combo off with and your opponent tries to remove the welder in response to the untap or whatever it is, which is a way of stopping the combo, if you have another cam and you can flash that in, you just get to keep going. And you're not restricted in terms of if there's a Bowmasters in play, you can keep just putting the draw triggers, untap triggers on the stack and just draw through your deck that way. So it's a very subtly powerful set of interactions that, and 2 cameras let you tap their whole team down just by looping through them, and you can do that on their turn, obviously. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff, and I think until you've played with it, it's kind of hard to come up with an exhaustive list of all the ways that all the funky little things that it does, which I think is a really nice spot for a card to be. It's the thing that I love about artifacts, I guess, is that they have these weird little game space interactions. Yeah. And the Goblin Welder, I think, sort of universally agreed. Everyone agrees that it's the coolest card in Painter.
Yeah,
historically.
I've also just the power level to it kind of just kills turn 2 a lot. Painter can do that obviously because you've got a lot of fast mana soul lands, especially builds that played 3 or 4 grindstone, shortcake and stuff. But just this deck, just sometimes you have turn 1 Welder, turn 2 Engineer, Great Furnace, and then you have a Moxite in your hand as a kill. It's just Oh no, yeah, that's a kill. So you just walk into the turn 2s a lot. It's quite impressive. Yeah. I was goldfishing a bit yesterday, and I had a hand that had the potential to turn 1 if I drew an artifact off the top. It didn't. The potential's there. It's very good. So I think the build is still kind of being discussed on, and we'll get into that very soon. But the preliminary builds feel incredibly powerful to me because I think Painter was kind of struggling before. It was tier 2.5. It had some really horrific matchups, and it feels like almost a whole turn faster while still retaining a lot of resilience. The fact that the combo now gets through Nullrod, as you said before, cannot be understated. That is so powerful to just be able to not care about Nullrod in a lot of situations. So I think
in many ways, I have found the Goblin Welder kills to be the primary kill mechanism, actually.
Absolutely.
I think the deck might have shifted to being, this is a Welder cam, plan A, and then the Painter plan B and the Urza Saga plan C, is what this shell feels like to me, which is crazy. That's a huge shift.
Yeah, that's been my experience too.
One of the crazy things for me as well is that you kind of alluded to it, Callum, but it can be so innocuous. You can be I have nothing in play except a Goblin Welder, and then suddenly they're just dead. Or they can pass the turn and you have a melded Moxite in play. You sack it to make a robot, untap, make Agatha Soul Cauldron, exile the welder, and then your robot is a welder, and then you just kill them. It's like, it feels very synergistic, but also sudden in the way that the critical mass can just assemble itself because all the pieces are so cheap. Like Cam being 1 mana, welder being 1 mana, everything just sort of, you don't have to reach that critical mass of 6 mana total for Painter plus Stone, which is pretty remarkable.
And to piggyback on slightly on that is exactly with the Moxite point you made, is like you find these pieces that can combo together just by accident in a way. You're like, oh, I've got a Saga Construct token here and I've got the Moxite token here. And oh, I guess I just like don't need the Sewer-veillance Cam. Or like you have a Sewer-veillance Cam in the graveyard because you've used it in the mid game to tap a creature down and draw 2 cards. And these things are just accumulating. It's like a little tinker in the yard building a little spaceship or something, putting all the bits together, and at some point you're just like, oh well, I drew my Arena of Glory or my skateboard and I drew a Goblin Welder, I guess you're dead. It just comes together.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that does bring us on to a kind of central question, which is, should this deck be a Painter deck? And I think that's one of the things that people have been talking about the most. Like, obviously the Painter Discord is a very active place, and there are lots of people who've been drawn to start playing Painter because of this, because it seemed like the obvious fit since the deck was already playing Goblin Welder. But then we've also seen some lists being posted in places that don't play the Painter combo at all. I'm not sure actually whether any of them have like 5-0'd or top 8'd challenges as it stands. I don't know.
I don't believe so.
I think the results have mostly come in the Painter shell.
But I think also like they're being played a huge amount less, so it's not like
I think that's very true.
But I think you're right. Yeah,
I'm not saying it's indicative. I just think it's more like people seem to be converging a little bit on a sort of stock, maybe 50 cards for the Painter build, whereas the Cam builds are still a little bit out there, and people are. I mean, we're like a week into this format, right? So the lists
have converged much faster than I thought.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, yeah. What are your thoughts on like Painter versus no Painter?
Yeah, so as you said, this is like week 1. I'm not sure, but like I have played a couple of builds without Painter and stuff. It was not a great build. It was kind of funky with Mox Diamonds and Loam and Malevolent Rumble and stuff. It was very fun, just a bit too slow. But my instinct is Painter Grindstone is probably very strong, probably going to be the way to play in the future, because I think when people start attacking the graveyard more with Lay Down the Void and things like that, because the deck does use the graveyard a lot, you do overload removal, and so Painter is another thing that helps to overload removal. It doesn't use the graveyard, and it's a combo that is shut down by Null Roll, but your other combo is not. They kind of stretch everything in other ways. So I like the Painter side of it a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if other decks do well without it, or I wouldn't be surprised if like the best version comes out and doesn't have it at some point. It's hard to say, I think.
Francis, where are you at with it?
I'm very happy to continue playing Painter in the deck. I think having, a combo that doesn't utilize the graveyard is a big deal, especially post-board. Though there are, I suppose, negatives to it in that perhaps you are rather locked into a large number of cards that don't necessarily directly support the plan. If you're saying the Welder plan is plan A, then maybe there are a combination of cards you draw that don't synergize so well as others, but overall, I would say it's a good thing. I have got a list in front of me that 5-0'd yesterday, which is a non-Painter build, which is like blue-red goblins, so 4 Goblin Engineer, Goblin Welder, and then it has the Phyrexian Devourer, Agatha Soul Cauldron kill with 4 cauldrons and 3 Broadside Bombardiers, and it's a Fable deck as well.
I like this idea a lot. Like, it's a second combo that is quite similar to Painter Grindstone in a weird way, like Devourer and stuff. And then actually what's really relevant now is you have a lot of ways to tap down blockers, which was kind of a problem with the Devourer Agatha Soul Cauldron thing before. You can make a 50-50, but if your opponent has some blockers, it's fine. But now you can just, flash in a cam or use skateboard to tap things down. And that's a legit upgrade that I only just clicked on it this second ago. So I like this approach as well. Bombardiers is almost like a combo itself. It's just you have to answer it. So I think that can be a powerful inclusion in the deck.
There are 4 cauldrons in this list as well, right? So you have so many welders as well. Like if you find the first one and they don't have exile,
as long as you're not playing against a white deck, right? Like that's been one of the issues there. And then again, the synergy between Cam and the Cauldron combo is really cool. And I also had not twigged on that until you said it just now. So
it was a second ago. It's like, oh, that's cool.
But I think my main issue with it is that it does just lose to the same bits of graveyard hate. Although I guess like if it's surgical, they need more surgicals, relatively speaking, right? So it adds resilience in that sense. But against Leyline of the Void, it's just as bad. And so I had actually seen this list, and I think it's cool just to get all that extra space basically by cutting, main deck Pyroblast, Painter's Servants, and Grindstones. I feel like it might be a good time to talk about some of the lists, just to give people an idea of what's going on.
Just one final thought on the Painter thing is, my biggest thing is, I think the Painter Grindstone combo makes a ton of sense in theory in the deck, but in practice so far, I've won with it very, very little. It's probably like 10% of games at most. So need to play more, I think. But
that's interesting because I've won with it quite a bit. I mean, like, it feels to me like it's partly dependent on which half of the deck you draw and like what you're playing against, because I think that the sort of standard Painter line of like turn 1 Saga, turn 2 Painter, turn 3 Kill You is still like, that's very strong and linear in a matchup like Affinity, where it's just really hard for them to interact with that in either main deck or post board. They just don't have that much for it. And again, in terms of, I suppose the critical mass of things you need for that combo to come off is less, or there's more done. You need mana, but obviously you only need Painter Servant and Grindstone, and then you don't need like the third thing. Obviously, we've talked about how Moxite helps you find those other things, and I think like the first league that I played, I had in our first draft, it was like 1 Moxite, and then immediately, like game 1 of match 1, I was like, no, we need more of these. I think I want to play 4 Moxites.
Plays 5 or 6,
yeah. And then Francis, I think you made that tweak and immediately 5-0'd, so that was fun.
Yeah,
but yeah, I totally hear what you're saying about the Painter combo and how it's not been coming up that often. I think that might shift as people get better at playing against the Cam combo, because
I agree.
I've won a bunch of games, people just not knowing how it works and then just losing because they didn't interact in the right spot, or because they didn't, keep interaction or whatever it is. So I don't know. And I think there's another thing to be said for having access to Pyroblast and just like catch-all removal that is kind of compelling. And then Saga itself, you want to have good Saga targets. So the Grindstone thing being like Saga getting you half of your combo, which it doesn't notably do for the Welder Cam combo, gets you Skateboard, which is great. Skateboard has been really good for me so far. But I think there's enough for me to want to keep testing with Painter, but I'm also curious about the lists without it. So should we just run through a list?
Sure, we can do.
Maybe Francis, your 5-0 list, or Callum, your challenge list. They're slightly different, right? The main difference I think is Fable, but we'll come on to that.
Maybe we could talk about what we're kind of, I know it's only a week in, but like there is a clear build that's coming out. We could talk about what's in most lists. We could talk about the core exactly. Yeah. And then we could talk about where things flex.
I would say the core is obviously the package of the goblins. I don't actually quite know what is being played in all of the Fable builds, but I would assume that every list is playing all of the goblins.
Yeah, it is.
And then if every list is playing Painter, which so far they do seem to be, there will be some sort of Painter combo and some number of blasts. Although I'm playing a few more blasts, I think, probably than most other people. I'm still on 6, but you can create more space in your list by trimming on them. And then various amounts of artifact mana, I guess. Like, I think you're incentivized to play some number of Mox Opals, which is not always true in Red Painter because of how good they are with making infinite mana, and probably more than average like artifact lands, right? Like the first list I played had 4 Great Furnace in it, which is also pretty abnormal, I would say, for Red Painter.
I think I'm the biggest Great Furnace hater there is in the community. So this hurt my soul putting 4 Great Furnace in this deck. So, but it's good. It's really, really good.
Yeah. And then we've mentioned Moxite as well. So Moxite is another big part of the core, and obviously Cam. And I think again, like people started out playing 1 Cam. Just to engineer for in a mana base that makes no blue mana other than through Lotus Petal and Mox Opal. But then I think, we were initially talking about Intuition. We talked about that last week. And so we were thinking, can we make a blue-red mana base? And I think where the things have settled, and this might just be sort of the copycat effect where, one list goes up, and then I think it was then immediately picked up by Rodrigo Tagores, who 5-0'd with it as well in a video, first try. The core of that is like fetches plus 1 Volk plus 1 Thundering Falls, and then some mountains and Great Furnaces and Ancient Tombs and Urza Sagas, and that lets you cast your cams. So you play 4 cams because it's a combo piece with Goblin Welder. I think that's pretty much and then Skateboard, all the sort of one-offs that you see in Painter anyway. Phyrexian Dragon Engine, Chaos Defiler, Skateboard, and Snaring Bridge. Although I think that's where the flex slots start to come from. And the same is true of Fable, which I think previously was mostly considered like a staple of Painter, was to play Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And now it's an open question as to whether you play that or not. People have been having success with both lists.
I think the main appeal of Fable for me is the haste aspect. Being able to like loot into welders and keep them in hand and then give them haste later. Like the play pattern that Callum was describing earlier, it's like a large density of haste effects without playing a dedicated card for that. But the rest of it, I think, is quite slow.
Actually just, that's absolutely, it's come up once for me in one game. I've hasted the welder off the Kiki Chiki, but what's happened more often is the Fable cheats 2 removal spells and the welder lives, which is completely reasonable from the opponent, because if they don't answer them, they probably die anyway. So like, you just overload the removal even further. So that's where Fable's been as good as it ever is in Painter. Actually, I would almost say it feels better here because the looting is more relevant and you're finding more specific cards, and your combo pieces are cheaper. So the Shaman almost lets you combo a turn earlier, or like doesn't need to live in both directions there. But the Fable, just my first list didn't have it in. I don't know what I copied, and actually I don't know if you guys are playing it. I've forgotten.
I've played both.
Immediately,
versions.
It was just like, wow, this is great. So I could see it leaving the deck at some point, but so far it's just felt like such a glove, a natural fit. It's just great.
I think one of the problems for me with it is that like the deck is already kind of soft to the white removal playing decks, which are often playing Failure, and then Failure when like invalidates the Goblin Shaman on its own, and they just play enough removal that when they don't have to spend removal on the first part, then they get to remove the second part, and it's just so slow ultimately before you can get anything out of the reflection side of it. Obviously the looting is good, but I've found that Moxite, it gets you there much quicker because you get the loot straight away. So like Fable doesn't present any same turn kills in the way that Moxite does, obviously. So I think that's where, do you want to be a bit more low to the ground? How much are you respecting Wasteland? How much are you respecting, other mana denial? Like, are you trying to, leverage Tomb and City? I know you were playing a 3-1 split of Tomb and City, which is quite fun, Callum.
Also, just the last thing on Fable, I could see like 2 copies being right maybe in the deck. It just gives it like an extra boost for the mid-range plan, where you do have these hands that have like 3 Fables, which are like, please be playing against Beans, but then your opponent goes like Dark Ritual Doomsday and you feel stupid. And it's like, that is the Painter effect. And that's what Painter made you do very often. You'd have to keep a hand that's good against one part of the format and it's terrible against the other. Whereas now your combo being so much faster, you can kind of rely on trying to combo faster. But yeah, Fables do get a bit clunky in multiples, so I could see 2, maybe like even a third in the board or something as for the grindy matchups.
Yeah, your point about like playing against stuff like Doomsday, the being able to kill on turn 2 or turn 1 if you draw a million Lotus Petals is like really crazy. Like your opponent used to just probably very comfortably be like, okay, I can pass with whatever. Like Doomsday pass with Force Up or something, and that's usually going to get me there.
Yeah.
And this is just like, oh no, well actually I have a welder already, so you're dead, and actually your Force doesn't do anything. And that's come up lots and lots for me, which is a huge change.
And with that, they have Force is like the main interaction from these decks, right? And they have to force the welder. It's very rarely enough to force anything else in the combo, because with the welder active, you can just, your cam gets forced, well, you're going to bring it back anyway. There are situations where you just have one artifact in play, but it could be a great furnace as well. So yeah, it's like force the welder turn 1, or you might just be dying turn 2 through 3 force of wills.
And what's great about that as well is that compared to them forcing like a combo piece on a later turn after they've pondered or after they've brainstormed, often they're having to pitch those spells to like force straight away or risk losing. So it just getting to pretend to be like a turn 1 combo deck in that sense, like do the force check thing, but then also have this very serviceable, fair plan. Obviously, we're losing cards like Fury in these builds because there's just not room with all the cams and like the Agatha Soul Cauldron and so on. But just presenting those threats, I think people are going to really have to start forcing the welders, and I don't think that's going to necessarily even be bad for us, because it's like, you get to cauldron it back or just play another threat and you're up you're just up. Your 1-mana spell has demanded a force. And it's like Tamiya in that respect.
Absolutely. I would say if you're playing against this deck and you have a force and they play Painter and Welder, it's just like almost 100% correct to force it now. I would just actually say it's 100% correct to force it. Unless you're like removal, playing
obviously.
A blue combo deck. Yeah, removal, of course. Yeah. You just need an answer to it because your force is going to be dead as soon as it hits the board for the rest of the combo. So it really puts them in a bind, doesn't it? It's powerful. And then I think after that core, which I agree with, it's like the 8 goblins, it's like 3-ish Lotus Petals, 3 or 4, sorry. I think a lot of lists are playing 4, 3 or 4. Then like 1 to 3 Mox Opal, 1 or 2 is probably more common. Then you have these flex slots of like, as you said, Ensnaring Bridge, Chaos Defiler. I've seen some people play Meteor Sword over that instead. Then Phyrexian Dragon Engine. Personally, I've been finding myself just not ever searching for these cards. It could be that I'm not facing too much like cyborg cards, or they've not been coming up. But like the theories behind them are great. The Chaos Defiler, you can loop and you can destroy all of your opponent's non-land permanents. The Phyrexian Dragon Engine is just a very good card to get with Engineer when you expect the Engineer to die, because it's like a good value card in the mid game. Yeah. But I found myself just grabbing Moxite with Engineer most of the time, or the Cam if you're ready to combo, or Agatha Soulholder quite a lot as well. The Ensnaring Bridge has been the better of the 3, but I also just feel like it's not really needed in the deck. It's nice because it can just scam a win game 1, but I'm actually just going to cut all of these cards, I think, and see if they're missed. I think all 3 are out of the list that I have on Magic Online now.
Yeah. I've been playing without Dragon Engine since you suggested it the other day, and I have not missed it at all, and I have no interest in putting it back in the deck. Defiler I have found to be good and have been happy with, and I've only been playing Ensnaring Bridge in the sideboard the whole time, and that has been more than enough for me. I have not played with it main deck, and in some matchups it's really good. Like I've played against Eldrazi, and I've played against like Sneak and Show or whatever, and you kind of want it there. Obviously, Eldrazi has that card that exiles it and things like that, but you've got so many welders all the time that like you can just weld it out and weld it back in again off them, and they just can never attack you, which is great. But those are pretty niche like metagame calls, and I could see not playing it at all as well. So, but the Defiler or Meteor Sword, which I've not tried, I guess would probably stay in for me. I think, but yeah,
I think on Defiler, I mean, I have played a version where I just cut all of them and was just like purely like basically sort of quad laser Cam combo kind of vibes. But I think I did miss in particular Chaos Defiler because you end up in situations where if you have nothing except Welder plus Engineer and your opponent is doing something that you want to interact with and you can't combo off straight away because you don't have either Moxite or Cam, and you don't want to risk or you can't really risk just having to draw into the other piece by binning Moxite off Engineer, then being able to get the Defiler as a way to just completely control a fair game still feels quite strong, and it's much more castable than Meteor Sword, and there are some niche scenarios where it will allow you to combo through certain things or like deal with certain things as you're executing the combo, because you can like mill yourself with Grindstone even when you don't, when your opponent would have a shuffle or whatever it is. And you can then, there are just various, that's not a good example, but there are various scenarios where it's useful to have access to.
I actually totally agree. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think out of the flex slots in my head, it's the one that probably makes the most sense. And I think the arguments you put forward are good. I could see it being in the deck still. Like it's such a catch-all in the same way that like Painter and Blast is kind of just uniquely good to have as well. That especially for a deck that, it is a combo around a 1-mana 1/1, which is very fragile and it's weak to Graveyard Hate. So like people can bring a plethora of interaction for you, and you do need to be prepared for quite a wide array of things. So yeah, just having easy answers. And I think, as you said, these lists are playing like more Lotus Petals and Mox Opals, so colored sources to cast the Defiler is quite relevant.
Definitely.
For just hard casting it.
I don't know if anyone wants to talk about Machine God's Effigy, was the other singleton that we've not dropped on yet, but has been raised. I think Jasper first has raised with me.
I don't remember what it does exactly. So
you don't know what it does. Yeah, it's inspired a lot of chat. So I saw this tech from PVDR who was like, before the cards were in hand, he was like going really off the deep end in a very entertaining way, looking for all the like niche corner case scenarios and cards you could play to address them. And the scenario that Machine God's Effigy is designed to answer is kind of what I was just describing with Welder and Engineer, whereby you have those two cards and you have an artifact in play, but not one of the artifacts that lets you combo, say like a Lotus Petal or whatever. And Machine God's Effigy is a card that, when it's an artifact, and when it enters the battlefield, it enters as a copy of a creature, except that instead of being a creature, it's an artifact. And so the line is that you engineer for you have your Welder in play, it doesn't have summoning sickness, you engineer for your Machine God's Effigy, you then weld it in and have it copy the Engineer. So you get another Entomb trigger off the Engineer. And then you can get your Cam, and then if you have a spare red mana, the Effigy that's copying the Engineer, even though the original Engineer is still summoning sick, the copy, because it's not a creature, won't be summoning sick. So you need the extra red mana, and then you can sacrifice the Effigy to itself to return the Cam, to untap the Welder, and then you start comboing off because the Effigy becomes a copy of the Engineer and gets you the Moxite or the Legion Extruder, and then you win that way. So it's like a very niche scenario in which it just straight wins you the game when no other card can, and no, Cursed Mirror does not do the same thing, because Cursed Mirror becomes a creature when it copies the Engineer, so it is summoning sick, so it doesn't work in the same way. Unfortunately, because Machine God's Effigy costing 4 mana, I think is a bit of a pain. But it's a cool bit of tech. I really like that it exists as an option.
That's, now you've explained it, I kind of had understood it a bit before when I saw it, but now it's like, it's probably a pretty common line to go like turn 1 Goblin Welder, turn 2 you have a Lotus Petal, and then 2 mountains, and that's it, right? Or maybe a Great Furnace and a mountain.
You need a Great Furnace and a mountain.
That's the combo.
But it lets you kill from no other combo pieces in hand if you have a spare red mana and an artifact. With 2
it
goblins.
also lets you kill, interestingly, it lets you kill from Sewer-veillance Cam in hand with no blue mana, because Machine God's Effigy also has the text taps for blue, which is really like really weird.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, it's a mana rock. So I think it is certainly good in some decks.
I'm going to try it.
I think it is worth testing. It's in my current list, and I have found it to be useful. It's also good at killing your opponent's Orcish Bowmaster, which sometimes is annoying. And then you have an Orcish Bowmaster which they can't kill with Fatal Push, which is brilliant. So their brainstorms.
I think in the list without
bad.
Painter combo, Machine God's Effigy is well worth trying, because I think it does just give you that extra little push. And I think even when you are playing Painter, it's, it can still copy other ETBs as well. It's an odd one because it's clunky at 4 mana, but it opens up that line that literally no other card, as far as I'm aware, does what that card does. So that's cool.
Yep.
Another one that we've mentioned but haven't really talked about in depth, and one that I think a lot of people initially were very keen to cut, is Legion Extruder. Because technically, even though it does get you infinite damage, you don't need the Extruder to combo off, because you can combo off with Grindstone and infinite mana. And even if they have an Eldrazi shuffle effect to bring back their deck, if you have an Agatha Soulcrawler in your deck, which pretty much every list is running at least one of anyway, you can just keep looping through their deck and exile the Eldrazi one by one, and then just Grindstone them again. And then, because you keep getting all these untaps for all these effects, functional untaps, by welding them in and out with untaps from Sewer Cam. So in theory, the Legion Extruder is not necessary to combo off with Welder and Cam. But I think all three of us are pretty keen on it as a card in the deck. And I think that has a few different reasons. For me, first of which is playing online, being able to not have to make infinite mana, or not have to make however many 100 mana you need to grindstone 20 times. That's 60 mana. That's probably like 400 clicks or something. It's a lot of effort and time in a chess clock game on Magic Online. Fine in paper, you demonstrate that you can do it.
You could get like the Painter and play in there as well as you keep going through things, but I do agree. I would say Extruder is like actually just a must online. It's so much faster. It's just, you have to play online. In papers where it gets iffy.
In paper it gets iffy, but there are still reasons I think to play it, which are that it lets you combo off at instant speed on your own turn, and you don't have to pass the turn for it to be a kill, which can be relevant against certain decks.
The mirror, if they mill you.
Mirror. This has happened to me. I was playing the mirror and they milled me out, and I won on my own upkeep with Legion Extruder, and that felt incredible.
Yeah, I think the instant speed nature of it is very good, and it's what the other things can't do. If we had like an artifact that was just good in the deck and says target player draws a card, maybe we could rely on the grindstone kill. But I think the instant speed is good. I don't know if it's like enough to really play the card, but the fact that the card is just pretty solid on its own, I actually just like it in the deck regardless.
Yeah.
It's good playing a grindy game. What I actually has come up in a few games is it's an instant speed way to sacrifice the cam to untap the welder if in response to a removal spell. That's happened a couple of times. It just has nice synergy in the deck. So I think it's worth the inclusion as something. Sometimes your opponent has an oof and you want to weld it in to kill the oof or something like that. It's just good.
I very much agree with that. Jasper and I were both playing it in the recent lists pre-cam, where we were experimenting with like heavier artifacts with Pinnacle Emissary, and we were both playing Legion Extruder in those lists. And I have noticed in games that I have basically been giving up equity by not just passing with the combo and playing, killing, and just like not going for it because my opponent could use interaction on my pieces. But if they do anything proactive, I can just kill them when they've used their mana. Like that stuff is really powerful, and those lines all disappear if you don't have that, basically. So I'm a big fan of Extruder.
Yeah, agree.
And yeah, even the 3/3 golems have been quite relevant for me. Like I've won a few games just off sacking a spell Lotus Petal to make a 3/3 and like coming in, and those 3/3s are pretty resilient. Like again, it's just all these nice little interactions where you can infinitely blank a Barragoyf just by blocking and sacking before blocks to the extruder, and they don't even get to gain any life, which is very cool. Added to which, getting to make a creature token that can take a cauldron activation and so on is like, it's all kind of good, I think. And for the people that are like, oh, and you also need it to beat Null Rod, technically you don't, because if you have a Defiler, you can always just weld that in to get rid of the Null Rod. The Mock Sight works through Null Rod anyway. So Null Rod isn't even for me the biggest reason to play Extruder, and I still think that it's well worth playing a copy. But we've all just been singing its praises. Why do we not want to play more copies of it?
The first one, like having 2 mana and the artifacts are stacked to make the 3/3s, like having a second copy is not going to be gaining you that many more 3/3s. You might have the mana, but you're going to run out of the artifacts and stuff. So, and 2 mana to deal 2 damage is not really a legacy power level thing. It's just because it's a sum of all the different things it does. Yeah. So it's not good. I wouldn't say it's good enough to play like more than 2. I think the second one is probably not worth playing either, but the effect is unique enough to the deck to be something you can like engineer for and be happy to draw. And it is part of this win condition because the combo is drawing your deck with Mock Sight and Cam. So just the inclusion of the 1 copy is really high. It's a really high up effect. But then the second one, it just drops off. The diminishing returns is very low, I think. Another little thing that's come up for it quite often is when you have a welder in play, it's sometimes you just don't have an artifact in your graveyard to start things off.
It's true.
Just another way to sacrifice things. It comes up more than you think. You're like, there's no Lotus Petal, and you haven't drawn an engineer or a loop effect, and you just need to get an artifact in the graveyard to start looping things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the one I like.
I think also maybe another thing is these decks aren't playing currently much interaction in the main deck outside of Blast. So having a removal spell that you can tutor for is often like quite useful. And drawing it, there's almost always something you can just play and incidentally kill, because you're not playing a swathe of bolts and furies and things. Like, it's a useful effect just to have a removal spell.
How have you guys been finding Skateboard, which I think is the last kind of, it's a new card and it's like the last kind of one-off that we're seeing in the decks?
I've been very impressed with Skateboard. I don't really understand when people say, oh, I think Boots is still better than Skateboard. For me, that doesn't register at all. I've cut Boots for Skateboard, and I've even considered playing a second Skateboard because the haste is now so good. And the tap effect, I think, again, it's easy to overlook or underestimate how that can tax an opponent's ability to interact. Because if you can tap down, they've left up a white mana to have their swords up. And if you can tap down that white mana before you cast your Painter Servant or your Goblin Welder or whatever, then even you can even just, if you have like Painter combo in play, it forces them to try and remove the combo piece, and then you get to combo off. So that on its own feels stronger to me than Ward 1 in a deck that's so proactive. Added to the fact that like it makes your construct plan so much stronger because you get to tap down a blocker and just swing for like 10, 11, 12, 13, whatever it is. And then even like being able to loop it with Cam and Welder if you have no other combos going on to tap everything they have in their upkeep and basically just like tangle wire them infinitely is great. It's such a great effect to have access to. And I think that the Ward 1, even though it can come in handy, it's just not how I've ever felt that it plays out. It's mostly reads like flavor text, the Ward 1, because you're essentially trading 1 mana to equip with 1 mana of your opponents, and that's not a great trade. Whereas if you trade the triggered ability of tapping with their 1 mana, that feels like a much better trade.
Yeah, or they can just have like the two mana up, and they can just let it be equipped and then pay the ward when you go for something. Right. What happens very often with like these removal heavy decks and then a Welder, you're in like a staring contest where the first one something loses, and then Skateboard coming in offers a Saga can then like start things off. And then if you have other goblins, you can start sacking it, bringing it back in. And giving Constructs haste is a very, very strong part of the deck as well. Just crunching for 10, 12 damage is actually, especially with the Great Furnaces and more Mox Opals and Low Spells than what I'm used to, it's quite common to just like crunch in for 17 damage. And you're just like, wow, you just died.
Whoops.
Yeah. And the Cam tapping down like a 1 blocker, and then the Skateboard coming in tapping down a 2nd blocker, and then just crunch. It's really good. Really, really good. I completely agree. Skateboard is so much better than Lava Spur Boots. I'm adding a 2nd. The haste is so good. I just kind of I've been playing 1 Boots, 1 Skateboard in a few leagues just to see if it's ever I want the other one, but I haven't. So 2 Skateboard I think is what's going to go in next.
Francis, what about you? Happy with Skateboard?
Yeah. Nothing else to add.
One more card that I don't think any of us have played but got discussed in the Discord today and yesterday is Chromatic Star. It's a pretty cool idea. So the idea is it's like a Melder Moxite, but you can find it off the Anurza Saga going off. So with a Cam and the Chromatic Star, you can weld them in and out and you draw your deck. I think this is probably worth the inclusion of one of them if there's space in the deck. It's a pretty nice angle. The downsides are you can't win at instant speed because you draw your deck, but because Moxite discards things as you're comboing, you can't like discard the Extruder. But if it's your turn, you can just draw your deck, play some more mana sources like Lotus Petals, and then play the Extruder, and then you win through there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't win instant speed, but the filtering of mana, like through Soul Lands or to get blue for the Cam or whatever, is pretty legit as well. It's just a good card. It does not draw a card if your opponent has a Leyline of the Void, so there's some downside there, but I think 1 Chromatic Star is a good inclusion in the deck going forward.
I feel good about that.
That is very exciting.
And, like,
yeah.
Over Phyrexian Dragon Engine, that seems like a very natural swap to me, where it's sort of like Moxite number 5, except that this one comes off Saga. That's sort of where I would position it. And I think that I'm definitely going to try it the next league that I have. You just mentioned has some downsides. And I think maybe it would be a good time to talk about some of the downsides of the deck as a whole and what it's kind of weak to. You've mentioned Leyline of the Void. You know, we've been singing the deck's praises and saying how much fun we've been having, Goblin Welder to the moon. But what are some of the things that you have to watch out for when playing the deck? Where can it be attacked? What's it vulnerable to? What's the vibe there?
So yeah, I think the fact that it leans on the graveyard quite a lot, and the fact that we're talking about, you know, the Goblin Welder combo is winning much more than the Painter combo. Not like exclusively, obviously, but you know, it does use the graveyard, and if people have Leyline of the Void, it is good against this deck. So we're currently looking at ways of like, do you just have Painter Blast for it? Do you just go for the Painter Grindstone kill? Some people playing like Into the Flood more, Echoing Truth is an option, or I don't know. You can also just win with like Constructs and Fables as well. So it's one of these things where Leyline is good against the deck, but you need to have more than Leyline as well. You need to have a fair plan to back it up. Personally, I found Energy to be a horrific matchup. I think you guys are not doing that, but like a fast clock with just some disruption, it's the Delver effect. It's just like they play the swords, and obviously not Solitude because that's impossible for Energy, but Wasteland is very good. Bombardment is just a complete beating.
Oh god,
that's the card
it's
that's
so
beaten me
brutal
most from it. I've been boarding in Disruptive Flutes and Pithing Needle mostly to name Bombardment. I just haven't really drawn them. It names Ajani as well, and you can Disruptive Flute on swords or Wasteland sometimes as well. But that's a way to beat it. Like, the combo is fast, but it does get broken up with a removal spell. It's resilient because you then draw into more combo threatenings. But if you're dead by turn 4 from like Ocelot Pride and Guide of Souls, then you just don't have the time to find it. So,
and it is another point of vulnerability they have some interaction. Notably, they have Wasteland. And I think that the mana base in this deck is still at a point where I would say it's pretty sus. Like the list that you trophied with, for example, Francis, is 21 lands, 4 Tomb, 5 fetches, 4 Great Furnace, 2 Mountain, 1 Thundering Falls, 1 Volcanic Island, 4 Saga. And like that's not a lot of colored sources. Obviously, you've got 4 Petal and 2 Opal as well, but it's like you can run into spots where just a well-timed Wasteland just completely disrupts your hand and your game plan. And that's a genuine cost of playing the blue splash to be able to cast Cam. I wonder if there's possible refinements to the mana base that could still be made.
I generally do not particularly care about consistently being able to cast it. Because there are so many discard outlets and way to throw it into the graveyard, I don't want to play a deck without being able to cast it, but like it's not a priority for me to be able to build a mana base to have 16 blue sources or whatever. Like that's just not important.
But I mean, even just like the red sources, like Great Furnace, you draw your Volcanic Island, you draw your Thundering Falls, and now your red sources can get wastelanded. That's always been a cost of the splash in Painter.
Yes.
And I think that's
true.
Still very true.
My experience so far has been, even with like old Painter builds having 10 mountains sometimes, like Wasteland is always going to hit something because you have sagas. It's always going to hit something good. I've not found the mana base to be too bad so far because the combo is so much cheaper and so much easier to assemble. And
it's so lean.
Exactly. I've not found it to be as bad as I expected, honestly. I thought it was going to be worse. Maybe the addition of Fables might make it worse, but
I found it specifically really bad into Wrath of the Skies. I've been Wrath of the Skies now like 3 or 4 times.
Don't mention that card.
For like Furnace Saga, and it's like, oh, okay, I've like, the worst was like, and this was just, I'd mulliganed, and that was where my hand played. I had to fade it, so I played like turn 1 Welder off Furnace, turn 2 Saga, and then they just like blew up my whole board, and I lost. And it's like, that's unfortunate, but there's nothing. It was a Yorion deck. Why did they have it? It's not fair.
I think my inclination mana-wise, as Callum says, the deck is like much lower curve than previously. You're not playing Fable in some lists. At least my initial list wasn't playing any. I actually felt like I had too much mana in most of the games I was playing. Like it has 21 lands still, but I have no Fable of the Mirror Breaker and I have no Fury. So I have just nothing to put the mana into. Since then, I've actually been cutting lands. Like I've been playing 20 lands mostly compared to the 21 in that league. And I've not been adding more artifact mana to replace it. Often I will trim artifact mana post board and like slow down and play more interaction. And I also agree that like with if my red source is getting wastelanded, maybe I have an Urza Saga type line, like type thinking. Sometimes that doesn't work out, obviously. But you have another thing is that wasteland, like, you have so many turn 1, turn 2 plays that if you're keeping a hand and you're playing a spell, they have to like force of will you then wasteland you to really to really punish you for that. And if they don't do both of those things, then you're on the board and they're spending their land drops to destroy yours when they may or may not lock you out of mana. Like it's not a good option for them most. So I don't know. I think the mana is okay. I do agree that Leyline the Void is tricky. And that's another reason why I'm like kind of inclined to start playing Fable. I've not played very much Fable at all. But it's another way of like creating board presence in games. Like I'd much rather play a deck that just doesn't care about Leyline the Void than to play bad cards like Echoing Truth or whatever. I'd just rather have a game plan where they do it and I just don't care. Against
Leyline, just going like a turn 2 Fable, like off a Saga and Lotus Petal is so hard for that Leyline hand to beat just straight up. Because the downer card, you're not caring about it. You're filtering away your graveyard combo pieces. Yeah.
That's a great argument for Fable. Because I think that's one of the main questions is people are asking is like, well, how many Fables should I play? How many Cams should I play? How many Blasts should I play? And I think we've touched on all of that. But I don't know if either of you have specific thoughts on, like, particularly Blast is an interesting one for me because Painter traditionally plays like 6, 7. I've registered. As recently as Eternal Weekend, I registered 8 copies of main deck Blast, 4 Pyro, 4 Red Elemental, and I felt really good about it at that point specifically. Like that was one of the things that drew me to that configuration was like, I have all this interaction. Do we still need that in the same way? Like your list, I think, was down to like 3, Callum?
3, yeah. I am lower on Blast in the deck. I just think we have so many things to do with our mana and like threaten things early. I found it was easy enough to keep red mana up, but because the only card you really actually care about being forced generally is the Welder itself, I was trying to play it earlier So it's good when you're doing the sandbag games and stuff, but like your opponents just don't have the force will for Tome Welder quite often, or they have a removal spell, so they don't need to force that. It's nice to have an out to everything with Painter in play, and I have beaten some combo decks by just having a turn 1 Painter with a pedal. That's always a strong opening. So I do like a few as catch-alls, but I might even cut down to 2, honestly. I just feel like it's fine. It's not been a part of the deck that's like kind of felt good, to be honest. It could be the metagame. Like at the top, we're seeing energy a lot. There's just a lot of non-blue decks. There's combo decks where it doesn't really matter. Like against Oops, it's nice against Memory's Journey when you have sideboard cards, but game 1, it doesn't really do anything. So I just feel like it's not very well positioned is my big downer on it in the deck. I think if the top of the meta was like all Murktide Regent decks, then yeah, I'd probably want to play more than 3. But right now it's more like a protection card. And so I'm actually looking to like play Apostle's Blessings in the sideboard, a fan favorite of mine, because I want to beat the Source of Power Shares from the energy decks. I think the way to do it is beat their 1 interaction piece and go under them a bit. Whereas, previously the Painter decks, your whole combo is having Painter in play, so it can always kind of counter a removal spell. Here, it's not playing that role, so it's a bit of it feels like it doesn't really have a job, if that makes sense. So that's my feeling on it.
Francis, you've been playing 6. Do you feel differently, or is it just a kind of vestige of previous deck construction?
I think it was sort of it would have started as a place to like come from building from Painter lists, and right, the list that's published of mine has 6 blasts in it because that was the first league I played. I was like, okay, well, I'll put 6 blasts in my deck because it's a Painter deck and blast is a good card with Painter, and I want some amount of interaction in my main deck. The list I have like sleeved up in front of me has 4 blasts in it. I don't know if I want to go to like 3 or 2, but maybe I will end up following Callum that way. The list I have in front of me actually has 1 grindstone in it because I just want a way to turn Ozasada into kill. And I still want, and like you want a way to find it with Engineer, but like, I sideboard it out like every single round. And I'm just like, okay, well, this is an optional kill. And I suppose the way we're going is like we're removing the Painter synergies, right? Like 1 less grindstone, maybe some few blasts, and then you're saying, well, why are we playing this at all? I still want to be playing the Painter package, but trimming it for more space, I think, is a preferable place to be, and trimming down on blasts as well. But yeah, I'm not sure. Like I'd need to play it more, right? I haven't solidified where I am on that. But I will be adding Chromatic Star to this list that I have in front of me. I think that sounds really good. And yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that.
I'm kind of like playing around to the side, and where I'm, as we're talking, just seeing things, where I'm kind of landing on liking it is like 21 lands, 3 pedals, 2 opals, and then 4 cams, 4 welders, 3 blasts, a Chromatic Star, a grindstone, 2 skateboards, 4 engineers, 1 extruder, 4 moxite, 1 soul cauldron, 4 painter, 2 fable, and then a defiler, and then there's 2 spots like left over.
Yeah, that's like, really similar to what I've got.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm on 20 lands, but
Arena of Glory ?
Arena has been incredible for me. The 1 copy, which is over the 5th fetch that Francis mentioned. I think I'm just going to go down to 3 Great Furnace soon. It enables more turn 2 kills, I get, but like I think as people start sideboarding against this deck more, it's probably going to just get weaker. So I could see that if you need the basics, but Arena has been phenomenal, really.
Yeah, the classic like exert Arena, play hasty welder, hasty engineer on the same turn. It just is like it presents so many points of interaction because you can run the engineer out first, get the cam, and then suddenly they need to be able to kill the engineer and the welder, because if they try and kill the welder in response, you just bring the cam back with engineer and then go off in response to that. So yeah, I've been impressed with Arena. I put it in after I saw your list, and I thought, oh, actually, because I for a long time was like, this card is so, it can be so, I've lost games to it coming into play tapped when I needed just like any mana source. Lost matches to that. But I think that the effect overall, like haste is so strong because of, we've talked about it so much, the compactness of the welder kill, and getting to do that in one turn just makes it so much more difficult to interact with.
I had a really crazy game against Beans a couple of days ago where the game went incredibly long. They had 3 up the beanstalks out. They had like Force and Solitude or some things. So they were discarding to hand size. But I'd set up so that I had a Fable had flipped. So I had 1 haste available. Saga came off. I got a skateboard, tapped down one of their white sources, and then hasted 2 engineers. So I have effectively four engineers in a weird way, and that got through all their removal because they didn't have enough ways to stop it. Sick. In a game which they were down to like 20 cards in their deck. They had drawn everything. It was just the double haste was so powerful.
So good.
One final thought on weakness of the deck is Clarion Conqueror.
Oh god, yeah.
That card is a beating.
Card is an absolute beating. Turns off your furnaces, turns off your welders, it turns off your grindstone combo, it turns off everything, and it doesn't die to Legion Extruder. So
yeah,
that's quite upsetting.
So I think I haven't actually been playing them yet, but I'm just going to add 2 or 3 lightning bolts to the sideboard, probably 3, because it kills it's just so good. Lightning bolt is such a good card.
Yeah, Jasper and I are both on several bolts sideboard.
Yeah.
I know I've played that first league with Sudden Demises, but very quickly we both shifted to playing lightning bolts. That is one reason for it.
I do love that Sudden Demise has been published for the first time in probably like a decade in a winning deck list. And immediately people are like registering Sudden Demise again, which is great.
I think it is good, but like it's specifically good as like a way to kill creatures from energy and cradle decks when you're not playing Fable, so you don't have synergies with Fury and you don't want to have to pitch cards for your sweeper effect. Like, yeah, I think it is like a reasonable choice, but the card that was really annoying me when I started playing this list was Orcish Bowmasters, and just having a way to just get rid of it so I could play out my Moxites when I'm not ready to combo, like, was useful. And then also just I found that you only needed like 1 or 2 pieces of removal in a game to just like go over the top of somebody who was trying to lock you out. So yeah, but generally like Bolt has been good. I've not wanted to go back, and for the same reasons I've wanted to play a Braids over Untimely Malfunctions. Just having more ways to kill random creatures in my sideboard has been, I think, more valuable. But maybe I haven't played against as many Soul Splashes type decks or Mirrors or whatever, but yeah.
Braid I'm keen on because it kills Clarion Conqueror, and you just have to get that card off the board just because your deck does vanishingly little with it in play.
It was really annoying, actually. Earlier I played against Beanstalk and they had Clarion Conqueror. I just didn't know they were playing that card. Like there was just a banned Beanstalk deck, and then they were just like, oh, I have a Clarion Conqueror. I was like, what is this shit? Like, you stop that. I don't have any lightning bolts against you.
That is another argument where, like, obviously against a Beanstalk deck, your blasts are going to be live more anyway. So having blast for Conqueror is kind of nice, just because it is that catch-all vindicate spell. But yeah, Clarion Conqueror is a beating. So we've covered quite a lot about the deck, even though it's very early days, and I think it's safe to say we've all been having a lot of fun. And so we put out word for people to maybe ask a few questions prior to recording, and one of them that was submitted that I thought was interesting is it's a question about how Cam changes perceived previous bad matchups, like Show and Tell, where Painter combo was generally unreliable, and just matchups in general, I suppose, and how Cam has shifted those and the things that Cam lets the deck do.
Can I answer this one? Because I have a good answer for it.
Yes.
I have a beer in front of me. I'm just opening. Cheers to everyone, because we don't have to face the absolute horror story that Sneak and Show was. And I think we're actually quite favored now. I cannot believe the day where my cute little artifact deck is actually good against that big spaghetti monster. It's just like the matchup has just flipped on its head. It was nightmare fuel. I would go far as Sneaker Show was just by far the worst matchup for Painter, even more than like Green Cloud Post or whatever. And now, because we can just tap down their Emrakul with the little paparazzi camera, also the graveyard doesn't use their graveyard like grindstoning them. I found it to be pretty positive. I think I played it 5 times in the last few days, and I lost to JPA once, who force-willed my welder turn 1 every single game and just did JPA things. So cheers, everyone. Thank God the nightmare is over.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers to that for sure. It has been a long, long time of playing a deck that is a dog to Show and Tell, and now having it be like, even if it's only like even, that's still going from like a 20-80 matchup to a 50-50 is an enormous gain, because like your combo is faster than ever, And it also doesn't any longer care about Emrakul, which is like phenomenal. Absolutely love it. Yeah, so that's a huge shift.
I think we are weaker to energy than before. Energy I was beating very often with like Fables and Furies and the Fair Plan. Maybe I've just been getting battered by it so much the last few days. I'm just shell-shocked and I don't want Jamie to be so right, but I do think it is worse. So that's changed. So I was usually okay against it.
Well, I think also because like we're worse against Bowmasters, and then there's the black-white energy deck that does play Bowmasters as well, and there's a sort of general like it's just all a little bit more fragile. Like you're trading off some of the mid-range grindy aspects of the deck for this combo kill that comes in addition to your other combo kill, but is super quick. But yeah, it relies on having a 1/1 in play, and 1/1s don't tend to live very long in Legacy. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. I don't know if there are any other matchups that are like quite as skewed by the addition as Sneak and Show. I think to me, and maybe Francis, I imagine you feel similarly. It just feels like the deck has had a huge shot in the arm, just in terms of power level in general, where it's like prior you were kind of always battling out for that like 1 or 2%, and now it feels like sort of plus some number of percent across the board just by having more powerful effects.
Yeah, you have like way more opening hands that punish your opponent, which is a really valuable resource in Legacy. Like a lot more games than 10 years ago are decided by, well, my opening hand just beats your opening hand, and it doesn't really matter what you do. And this combo definitely plays very much into that. Like you're going to mulligan to 5 some percentages of the time, or 4 some percentages of the time, and you're just going to keep hands with like Goblin Welder, and they're going to die on turn 2. And doesn't matter that you mulligan so much. They've kept a hand with Ponder, and the hand doesn't do anything. And you're really like leaning more into that. I haven't been playing this deck very long, though I think we were talking. I've played against both of you a lot, so I know a lot about how this deck works from the other side of the table. And I don't want to play against this deck. This is much scarier. I don't have any time. So it's like playing against somebody's really like put the nitrous in the fuel sort of thing. It's like much faster, and you can kill from so many different positions, and it's much less predictable. Yeah, it's exciting. I'm very happy that 3 months after buying all the cards, they decided to print this big upgrade for me. That's really nice.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, as I said at the beginning, I was kind of just like, not off Legacy at all. Like, I was still going to come to Eternal Weekend and things. I was just, I've moved. There's nowhere to play up here, and I wasn't really playing online. And then I'm so not into Universes Beyond or whatever. So like, I wasn't reading any of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cards. Like, I can't stand this set. It's absolutely awful.
It's horrible. But it's just the worst.
Got me back into Legacy, and I'm so back into it. I'm so back. And I'm just staring at my screen with fucking skateboard on the screen, and I can't believe I'm playing a card called Skateboard in Legacy. And I hate that, but whatever.
Cowabunga, dudes.
Yeah. But to piggyback on what you two are saying, I feel exactly the same. A couple of matchups like Sneak and Show change, but otherwise it just feels better. Just so much better.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, another question that we had was like talking about the different versions of the deck, and the examples given were like blue-red Cam Painter, mono-red with Fables, like the traditional builds, Shortcake, and so on, and choosing a version based on expected metagames. I think to briefly answer that question myself, right now I'm personally not super interested in playing versions of the deck that don't play Sewer-veillance Cam for everything that we've already talked about. I think the card is really, really good. And another just like thing is, I'm not sure we've talked about it, but the fair floor on that card is completely fine. Like playing it for a blue mana, tapping a thing, like Time Walk their Baragoyf, then untap, like draw 2 cards in their turn, tap another thing. Like it's a totally acceptable card to play. So I'm not really that keen on playing the builds without it. I have been trying some of the heavier blue builds. I tried a build with like Force of Will and Tameo and Intuition to try and leverage that more. The first build of the deck that I played had a couple copies of Intuition. I'm sort of off that because it does make you more vulnerable on the mana front, kind of what we were talking about earlier, because you need to be fetching that blue source, and then you just don't want to be in that position when you don't need to be. And even though Intuition opens up some really, really cool lines, if you want to hear more about those, I would just say listen to the previous episode when I think both Francis and I were like much more excited about Intuition until we sort of realized that probably it just isn't necessary. But yeah, so I've played some bluer versions, I would say, and the predominant version right now is essentially mono red with a very, very light blue splash. But do you guys have any thoughts on that front, like which versions you're choosing, like how you might tech for a specific metagame, perhaps even with the, assumption that you're on the cam build anyway?
I think we're pretty early on to be answering questions like that, in that we're still trying to find like the most comfortable linear build of the deck, right? There are a load of different like tweaks that we can still make to find something that feels like a well-oiled machine before we start thinking about second order effects where, people are going to start playing more of X interaction, or Y matchup is going to be more popular because Cam ends up being played more. Like, there are obvious things like if there are more blue decks, you want to play more Pyroblasts or whatever. And I think personally, I'm kind of in a camp where I don't want to play a build without Goblin Engineer, which then leads you to say, I want to play a lot of red mana. There is some amount of exploring to do, I think, with Tezzeret. I think Tezzeret being able to fetch Cam and being able to play a blue build is interesting, but personally, that's completely unexplored, and I haven't done anything to do with that at all, because this has already been really promising. So, but that would also mean you could just play again, you still wanted to play Welder, and Welder is red, and you want turn 1 red mana, and you have to be able to cast it, whereas Cam is blue, but you don't have to cast it. So again, it leans towards being that red focused deck.
The weird thing with Tezzeret, I find, is Tezzeret really, really wants Grim Monolith. It's just so good together to like power out turn 2 and then untap the Monolith. A Monolith doesn't really work very well with Welder in a weird way. It's such a different end of the spectrum on mana costs and what you build into your mana base. Like, can you play a turn 1 Welder? Or then what do you ramp to with the Grim Monolith? They pull you in 2 separate ways in a weird way. Maybe it's okay though. I
know Alex was playing a build with Grim Monolith, 1 Grim Monolith and Intuition on Thursday, because Soul Cauldron...
Soul Cauldron makes engineer infinite mana with Grim Monolith. That's like the like weird flavor text on Soul Cauldron says you can use mana of any color to activate creature abilities. Cool. So I'm pretty sure that does make infinite mana with engineer instead of Welder. So that's like a cool little trick. Again, one of those funky interactions that, whether it's worth playing that, I don't know. I think the draw to being base red because you have to cast your Goblin Welder is like the main thing, and Moxite being like the single best card to glue everything together is another reason why I think even in a base blue build I want Moxites, and I don't just want one Moxite, I want more, because it's on rate for being like
it's just good, right? Yeah, totally fine. Good. Yeah, I do want to explore a bunch of the painterless builds. That's kind of next. I do like the idea of Capicania in the deck. I think the ways you can win at sorcery speed can be explored more, like Kappa with haste with a skateboard, or another kind of combo we got onto, we found at some point is like, because you loop your deck and then you have a grindstone. If you have a grindstone in the deck, you grind your opponent out and you grind yourself out, or you draw your deck. And then with the Agatha's Soul Cauldron looping, you can exile every creature from both players' decks. So put a counter on like a Goblin Welder for every creature in the decks. And you can loop a skateboard to tap down every single one of their permanents. So you can just win with like a hasty big creature as well. There's just ways that you can win in ways like that. But I guess that requires a grindstone in the deck. So I don't know if that's worth it.
One of my absolute favorite screenshots that you sent me just on that point. You sent that to the Discord, I think, was of like a 15-15 Goblin Welder attacking for the win, which it's like a beautiful
on a skateboard,
sight,
baby.
My boy getting there. Oh yeah, so it'd be a 16-15 Goblin Welder, or good shit.
I do want to try Emery as well, because she's just good in these artifact decks, right? The downside is it's more graveyard reliance, but I think she combos with Grinding Station and
she does.
Cam.
Yeah, Grinding Station Cam plus a Mox is kill.
I think that's a pretty powerful thing. Yeah. So I want to explore. Maybe it's just heavy blue red, and you just like 4 Volks. Screw it, kind of thing.
I think at that point, maybe you're definitely not playing Ancient Tomb, because it's just no longer casting enough of your spells. Are you still playing Saga? That's an open question for me, whether it's necessary or whether it's just slow, ultimately.
Probably because you're going to grab like a Mox Opal or Chromatic Star with it a lot, and just it's a good sideboard card.
I think the card is great, and I love having Saga in my deck, to be clear. It's like
it's a good question.
Questions for me, because I think another really strong card in a build like that is Malevolent Rumble, and I played at the Eternal Weekend Team Trios. I played like a Malevolent Rumble LED Echo of Eons Emery deck.
Yeah, you did.
And Rumble Rumble is just a sick card. Like it, and you have again, it can just Rumble could theoretically find you the kill all on its own with a welder in play, which is kind of bonkers.
I played 3 leagues with a rug build of this. It didn't have emeries actually, but it was playing, I think I said it earlier, Mox Diamonds and Loams, but then it had to try and speed up the 2-drops. But then Rumble would very often...
Loam is a really rogue inclusion there.
Well, it's just good with Mox Diamond, right? It was 2 Loams, and I had some Wastelands and Urza Sagas. And like you get back an Arena of Glory and stuff. It was okay.
Yeah, but Callum, what about Veteran Explorer?
Don't do that to me. Well, the curve of this deck is lower now, so you don't need it. There we go. But very often, Rumble, you was playing 3 Soul Cauldrons. You'd Rumble into like a Soul Cauldron and a Welder, and then you could just turn your random idiot or your Eldrazi Scion into a Welder and stuff. So it would come up.
That's sick.
That was fun.
That's cool.
But I think it was just a bit too slow. It was just slower than the builds that everyone else is playing. It just feels hard to beat this first shell. It feels very, very good. Like the first 50 cards feels exceptional.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grinding Station and Emery is next to try, I think. Something like that.
I don't think you need to play more than 1 grinding station either, right? You can just engineer for it. So it's like a pretty low cost.
And then Emery's just good with, and you get to play with the baubles then, and so you get to play like 3 or 4 Mox Opal, which is a pretty big upside.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good. Another question, and this is probably going to be a slightly briefer one, but it might entice you, Francis. Someone, in fact, Angry Bacon, wants us to discuss Displacer Kitten, Tezzeret, and Machine God's Effigy in the same 75. How do you feel about that, Francis? Francis is smiling broadly.
I love Displacer Kitten. I spent a long time talking with Marcus about Displacer Kitten when that card was printed. Like many, many, many hours about like terrible like 4-mana 2/2 piles without like blue-white control decks with Teferi and like trying to draw your deck. This sounds much better because Tezzeret plus Kitten plus a 0 is get every 0 out of your deck. But I guess without Divining Top, you are... Hang on, there must be a reason for this. So you're playing this, like, Machine God's Effigy, so that also becomes a cat? I don't really understand. Are you welding into having a cat? I don't really understand, like... Maybe you've thought this through more than me. I just like the sounds of those cards, but...
I haven't thought this through at all. This was a listener question, so...
oh, okay, lovely.
I guess when you get all the pedals out, and then you have 8 mana from like 4 Mox Opal and 4 Lotus Pedal in theory, and then you find other stuff. Take it over, Francis. Go on.
Well, you can like repeatedly flicker your Machine God's Effigy, right? I bet there's a way of doing this. Well, the combo like that we were playing in the blue-white build was with Teferi. And you just have any 0 plus cat plus Teferi was like draw your deck because you return the 0 every time and reset Teferi, and every time you did that, you drew a card off the loop. That's very easy, but I doubt this is a Teferi deck. If you're playing it in Vintage, you can like go and get 2 Sensei's Divining Tops and loop them forever, or I think you can actually draw your whole deck with Divining Top because you have a lot of mana. I think there's an infinite mana loop with Teferi with Tezzeret and you get 2 tops and then you put a lot of there's a load of things to do. I don't know what's going on here though. This is a bit weird.
Yeah.
Jasper, I think you're reading something. Have you found anything useful?
No, nothing. Nothing.
Okay, brilliant. Well, we're gonna get laughed at for not knowing this niche interaction between Machine God's Effigy. Is it a Warhammer card or is it just a card from
It's Brothers War?
Interesting.
It's the Brothers War Commander decks, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Jasper should know, being the artifacts and shit guy.
It's an in-universe.
Machine God is not the Omnisire.
No.
That's confusing.
It's very Admech-y, though, isn't it?
It is. That's what I thought it was. I just assumed it was a 40k card. I was like, this has definitely got an Admech on it somewhere. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a fair guess.
I think it's to do with Gix. That's what the flavor text says.
It says Gix
ensured
in the
his
flavor
most
text.
loyal followers were the first to taste Phyrexian perfection. So
that's cool. That's a cool flavor text.
Yeah, it's a cool card.
But is it as cool as
Cam in German?
I broke your robot. Here's an ashtray.
Is it as cool as why skate a half pipe when you can skate a sewer pipe?
And that is the end of the episode, everyone. See you next time.
You haven't actually. It's true. You just mentioned Sewer Cam in German, which is Kakerlakenkamera.
I love it so
cockroach
much.
camera.
Oh my god. Oh, it's so good.
So look out for some German sewer cams coming your way soon. But I do think, unless you guys have closing thoughts, I'm pretty sure that about wraps it up. Anything else to say?
Yeah, I know Patrick wanted to know what our plan for Super Shredder was. I thought that was worth including, but
Super Shredder.
True.
It makes sense that the villain from TMNT would ruin our day. It does seem to be doing really well, that deck, actually. It's interesting. I haven't played against it yet. Have you guys played against it?
I have played against Super Shredder. It's quite scary. So, yeah.
It looks incredible. It looks so powerful. It's just a huge creature with menace. Yeah.
It's also really annoying because you like start looping things and it just gets bigger and bigger with your welders looping things.
Yeah, but if you can just tap it down every turn with Cam, that seems like a
yeah, having Cam. I think it isn't that good against this deck because of 4 Cams.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to get.
I think that deck though, like the mono black aggro deck, I've been really impressed by in the past over the last year. The current one is like from Echo Burn and Splashing Blue for Days, which I think is good. But I've been incredibly impressed by that deck in the past, and I think this is a pretty big upgrade, or pretty good upgrade. I think the deck might be quite hard for us as well, not because of the Shredder, but because
Douthie,
Bowmasters and Douthie Voidwalker. Douthie is a killer. Douthie is so strong against the deck, so I'm scared of it.
Yeah,
more reasons to play Legion Extruder.
Yeah, and just playing 3 or 4 bolts in the sideboard probably is just. I just remembered one question, which is a fun one to ask at the end. Whiffy Penguin said, "What's our favorite real pet card and fake pet card?"
Oh yeah, this was a good one. Anyone got a good one to start off with?
No, I haven't thought of my answers yet.
Well, my favorite pet card is Sudden Demise, obviously.
Card is fine, I think. I think that's a real one.
Or Trinisphere.
Oh, Trinisphere's your bad.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I'm playing it because I don't have anywhere else to put my card. So, yeah.
But for the listeners, Francis got a nice promo from Eternal Weekend and wants to play it.
It doesn't go in any of my Ponder decks.
The little humble brag.
Yeah.
What about you, Callum? Favorite pet card, good and bad?
So the good one is a bit of a cop-out. I just freaking love Goblin Welder so much.
That's not a pet card.
But
pet card, best card in the deck.
It's clearly, like, as I said, it's a cop-out, but it's my favorite creature ever printed, and I'm just so happy that it's so much better again. Like, there were some builds of Painter in the last few years where I've not played it or played like 3 copies, and it's made me really sad. So, yeah, as I said, it's a cop-out, but Goblin Welder is like my very good favorite pet card. Mm-hmm. My favorite bad pet card is Apostle's Blessing because it just gets people. So I'm going to put a couple in the sideboard and see how that works for a bit now.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. I mean, Goblin Welder is just such a sweet card. Absolutely love Goblin Welder, and it's so nice to get to play with it. I think one of my favorite, the card that I always like to add to Painter decks is LED. I really like having just a singleton LED in the deck. And I think it's fine in various scenarios. I don't think it's really necessary anymore now because you're just that much faster anyway. But that is a card that it's always hard for me to cut that LED because it just has that little, like,
it's a beautiful card,
a bit of excitement of like, oh, maybe I'll just get to kill them on turn 1, which otherwise the deck didn't really do prior to Sewer Cam. Bad pet card, Sulfur Elemental. I love that card.
You've got loads, right?
I've got so many. I mean, there are so many. Sulfur Elemental came to mind because I was thinking about energy, but that card sucks and I love it. I could just get the binder out. I've got a binder right here full of just like terrible cards. The Antiquities War. Love that card. It's bad.
You played that so many times against me. Your like face is stapled to that art in my brain. Because I think you've cast that against me, like, I don't know, north of 50 times. So
I'm surprised, Callum, you didn't mention Ingenious Smith. That card's just jumped out at me.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an invitational card. Like,
sorry. Yeah, fair.
Your invitational card, Callum.
I've actually been playing your invitational card on Arena recently.
I've actually my favorite bad pet card is definitely Jaya Ballard Task Mage. I think that card is so cool. And like just shout. the things that you can do with it when you have an active painter are so very satisfying. But unfortunately, Legacy doesn't let you get away with casting a 2/2 for 1 red that doesn't have an ETB and that doesn't have haste. So yeah, that's my answer. Actually, looking through this binder makes me think there are some avenues that like we haven't talked about and that haven't been explored yet that mostly involve white cards. Like I think Pre-War Formalware is a pretty cool card with like Welder Engineer. I think Oswald is a really cool card with Sewer Cam. So I think there is scope there to do some fun testing.
And if we play white, we can play Ranger Captain of Eos or Ranger of Eos to get welders. You laugh, but like, I don't know.
Francis is frowning extremely deeply at this point.
I'm okay, thanks.
Ranger Captain, put it under an Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Use your other idiots to like turn off spells.
I'm more.
Yeah, but what about Bright Glass Gear Hulk? And then you can weld it in and out.
Oh yeah, now you're talking. That's such
Moving
for
back
creatures, right?
towards-
So you can get a welder and a and a cam with it.
What is going on?
Oh my god, yeah, you can get welder and cam.
Boom.
That's pretty
Bright Glass
good.
Gear Hulk.
You can get a
There we go then.
skateboard and a welder. Skateboard and a welder.
Sack your pre-war formal wear, get Bright Glass Gear Hulk, get welder and anyway. Right.
Fine, I'm changing my bad card answer to one that could be legit in the deck as well. It's Scrapwork Mutt. I really love that card, and that could be good.
You
in the
love
deck.
that card.
Not
Yeah,
terrible.
I love Scrapwork Mutt. It's an unearth to give a creature haste, and then you can like Soul Cauldron onto a welder onto it with haste.
Yeah.
And it's part of a combo where you discard and draw, so you draw through your deck.
Yeah.
Could be cool.
Yeah. No.
That could be good.
And it is also nice with another card that I've seen mentioned, which is Postmortem Lunge, which gets you a hasty welder and kills them, which is just
Oh shit!
sick.
How that
So-
wasn't my answer.
Callum and I both spec'd on my Postmortem Lunge maybe 10 years ago. I think we both bought like 20 plus copies. And it also paid off. I remember selling them for like 5x the price. So
I do as well, actually. And I played
when
that
like Death
in
Shadow was really big.
And that was my pet deck in Modern for like a year. It was like Postmodern Lunge plus Jace Friends Prodigy. I loved that deck.
That was
so cool.
really fun. That was a long time ago though.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
But good with Welder.
It is.
I think that does finally bring us to the end of our deep dive into Paparazzi, Painter, Sewer, Welder, Cam, etc., Kakerlaken, Camera,
Blueberry Shortcake.
Blueberry Shortcake, Blueberry Muffin, whatever it is. We're taking come to the Painter Discord, suggest some good deck names. Right now, the channel is Cam Painter, although there may also have to be a Cam Welder one if people start dropping the Painter combo in numbers. In any case, thank you so much for listening. Callum, thank you so much for joining us. Francis, thank you as always. It's been a huge pleasure with you both. Please do follow us on Spotify, YouTube, wherever else you get your podcasts, and leave us a comment or a rating if you are so inclined. Thanks, guys. Goodbye.
Cowabunga.
Death to the false emperor.